Shalom. All praises to the Most High. No said. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Holy Spirit, the Kahe. In the name of his only begotten Son, Motsah the Lamb, unification to the nation. So we're going to touch on Bozrah / Argentina once more. And in this video, I'm going to attempt to show you guys why Argentina is going to get judged. Because this country has slipped under my nose for a very long time. But now it's all starting to make sense. I don't even know the half or the quarter of what occurs when it comes to the racial discrimination that goes on in Argentina to both black and brown people in that country. Truly, that country might just be more racist than the United States. And that's not an exaggeration. There's really and truly something wrong with those people. So we're going to first get into it, right? Let me see. So we're going to read this headline. Let's see what we can get out of this. I'm kind of like going through this on top of the dome. But we're just going to look through this real quick. Nearly all white Argentina confronts its troubled racist and religious past. In a story carried Tuesday over BBC News, Latin America correspondent, this person, responded that a number of leaders of the indigenous community have filed a legal complaint in Buenos Aires with the country's Supreme Court, charging that more than 20 members of the Toba, Wichi, and Paraga peoples have died of hunger or malnutrition in recent months. Oh man, R.I.P. This was due to the failure of the authorities to take the necessary steps to deliver vital supplies, including water, to members of the indigenous communities in Argentina's impoverished northern province of Chaco, I think. With a 97% white European descended population, at first glance, it may. Did you not just see that? 97%. Now, people have pointed out that they have, other like blood other than white people. Like a lot of them have, indigenous or so-called African blood, but they're not saying where it's from. Because actually, they do say where it's from. It's almost all on the mother's side. Almost all of it, if they are mixed, it's all on the mother's side. So these people are just straight up, just one group of people. They are homogenous because even though they look a little different, their spirit still resonates with each other. Have you ever met someone who has a white father and a black mother? Do you ever hear how they talk? How the so-called black girls talk who look like that? And it's just like, oh, I know who you are. Oh my God, Brad. Like they talk like that. It's their spirit, man. That's who they are. Nevertheless, afflicted minority populations, in more ways than one, find themselves hidden among the country's majority white Catholic population, which tends to be ethnically either Italian or Spanish. I'm telling you, this is Bozrah. Along with Chile and Uruguay, whose white populations constitute the vast majority, Argentina can be considered one of the few remaining Latin countries in which whites unimpededly control their societies politically, economically, and culturally. If anything, Argentina's dominant racial and ethnic groups have been able to do this even more extensively and effectively than their cohorts in the rest of the southern cone, and all signs point to the continuation of this trend into the future. This is a white paradise, a white utopia, where they can have all the, Israelite women for themselves as their concubines, right? They can whore out our women and have our heads on a stick, right? And you're gonna see, I'm not just making that up. That's how they really are, man. They truly just look at our women like concubines. But you guys are rushing in bed with them. You think I should be okay with with this sort of union. I really don't like when the brothers get with these other nations, but when the sisters do it, that's just an abomination. Just an abomination. Meanwhile, because its minority and indigenous groups are relatively tiny, the Argentine government is faced with a number of questions regarding how it should deal with these suffering sectors of the population. Since these harassed groups are so powerless and able to wield only modest influence, the question could be posed, why bother? Bro, you think you have it hard here? Do you see that they're literally up against the world there? I would never want to live there. The only time I want to go there is to join in the slaughter of Bozrah. That's the only time I'd want to go there. In its early days as a colony, and then after its independence, Argentina's European-linked Catholic population suppressed, then came close to eliminating the indigenous population. What? That's what their goal is. And it's not the women, it's the men. They want the men gone. They already killed most of the black ones. Right? Today, they can't really kill them now. It's too late. So they're just going to pretty much pinch and prod at them to leave or to die. And they're not going to give a you-know-what about their children if they starve to death. This is the place that we're dealing with. Today, Native peoples and other minorities are often either marginalized or entirely excluded from the more favored environs, I don't know what that is, of Argentine society, and therefore face a predictable dose of discrimination. For example, poverty and illiteracy rates are significantly higher among the indigenous as well as some of the other less favored segments of the population. See, they purposely go after the indigenous peoples. They purposely do it. They purposely go after them because they hate them. Why do they hate them so much? Why? I wonder. In addition to dealing with its indigenous groups, Argentina is simultaneously combating another equally serious problem of ethnic and religious intolerance. Some Argentines have greeted recent indigenous immigrants coming from other South American nations like Bolivia, Paraguay, and Peru with racist, freckled, and inhospitable responses. Moreover, Chinese immigrants have long faced discrimination in Argentina, and peoples from Lebanon and Syria have not always fared well in their new country. Furthermore, the third largest Jewish population in the Americas, there have been periodic surges in anti-Semitism in Argentina, a country in which 9 of 10 citizens are Roman Catholic. Yeah, right, bro. A bunch of Jewish people are from Argentina. They love it. They love it there, man. The indigenous 3%. Last June, representatives of at least 15 of Argentina's indigenous groups met in the neighborhood of Barrio Toba in Rosario, a few hours north of Buenos Aires, in a historic first for Argentina's indigenous groups. Last June, that was a historic first. That is how much they hate the children of Israel. They don't want to give them anything. Why? Because it's their land. Why not? That's their land. Right? It is technically their land, right? The various native communities came together to unite against a common foe and in support of a widely felt cause. The target of their outrage was the Argentine government's neglect, and the mission was to protect the indigenous rights, the plight of their ancestors who had to chronically face shameful treatment after the establishment of Argentine viceroyalty up to the present, has been folkloric. You guys don't understand what other people go through. You only look at how they look, and you only care about what your bubble is telling you. Damn, man. The numerous indigenous groups of Argentina have throughout history been treated as second-class citizens, particularly during the last 100 years. demonstrating their unity in late June. And now with their action in the Supreme Court, the indigenous peoples are awakening to the realization that as they constitute such a small segment of the overall Argentine population, a little under 500,000, they will need to come together as well as sharpen their collaboration if they are going to have any chance to be heard in their immediate communities as well as throughout the country. Yet meetings and conferences can only go so far. There are genuine questions regarding the effectiveness of unification efforts in a country where the indigenous population is so negligible. Only 2 months after their initial meetings were staged, reports surfaced that the Toba, Wichi, and Mocovi Indians in Chaco, one of Argentina's most impoverished provinces, were being forced from their ancestral lands into smaller places where access to water, food, and health care was problematic. These people are some demons. But I guess it's their lands. Well, not all their lands. Some of Argentina they belong to Israel, but actually the crappiest lands probably belong to Edom. So they're moving us to their lands, and they're moving into our lands. Funny. Reasons for the movement of the indigenous groups were not entirely clear at the time, but it soon became apparent that they were being forced to move because their land was being illegally sold to commercial farmers for lodging. No wonder they felt sufficiently pressed to take their recent stand in the Supreme Court, which a month before had called upon the authorities to protect indigenous rights and access to resources. So I read a lot of this article because there's just a lot of drop in it. You're just seeing it in action, how racial these people are and how much they truly do not like us. Now let's go to this. Hey, we kicking back and we're going to have a nice conversation. Why Argentina accepted Nazi war criminals after World War II. After World War II, thousands of Nazi and wartime collaborators from France, Croatia, Belgium, and other parts of Europe were looking for a new home, preferably far away from the Nuremberg trials as possible. Argentina welcomed hundreds, if not thousands of them. The Juan Domingo Perón regime went to great lengths to get them there, sending agents to Europe to ease their passage, providing travel documents, and in many cases covering expenses. Even those accused of the most heinous crimes, such as Anti-Pelvic, whose Croatian regime murdered hundreds and thousands of Serbs, Jews, and Gypsies. What type of Serbs, Jews, and Gypsies? What type? What kinds? Dr. Josef Mengele, whose cruel experiments are the stuff of nightmares, and all these other dudes, were welcomed with open arms. So all these murderers were welcomed with open arms. So they're asking why would they do that? And the answer will surprise us. So let's continue. During World War II, Argentina clearly favored the Axis because of the close cultural ties with Germany, Spain, and Italy. This is not surprising, as most Argentines were of Spanish, Italian, or German descent. Nazi Germany nurtured this sympathy, promising important trade concessions after the war. Argentina was full of Nazi spies, and Argentine officers and diplomats held important positions in Axis Europe. Perón's government was a big fan of the fascist trappings of Nazi Germany: spiffy uniforms, parades, and other things, and vicious anti-Semitism. Whatever, man. And the Holocaust didn't happen. Many influential Argentines, including wealthy businessmen and members of the government, were openly supportive of the Axis cause, none more so than Perón himself, who had served as military attaché. Bro, this is not what I thought it was. A lot of these people who came here actually were Jewish. That's why I'm totally disregarding all this anti-Semitism stuff. No, these were the Jews. These were the face rats that came here. A lot of Argentina are face rats. They're just not religious face rats. In other words, they're Edomites. A lot of Argentina are Edom. They're not just regular white people. Why do you think they hate us so much? And this article, racism in Argentina, no way. Everyone knows Argentina is racist as hell. Everyone. Now, let's start here. We Argentinians usually think of ourselves as white people and the country itself as built by European immigrants, mainly because Argentina experienced a big immigration wave, mostly but not exclusive from Europe, and from the late 1800s to the early 19th. That's not the full story. Identidad Moran, in other words, brown identity, is a group of people whose goal is to discuss the structural racism in Latin America. A few weeks ago, Alejandro Mamini from Identidad Moran had an interview with that person from that place, an Argentinian independent YouTube news channel, where they spoke about this idea of lack of racism in the country. In that interview, Alejandro said that it is common that racialized people from Argentina are not believed to be Argentinians when traveling to other countries. This, of course, means that this myth is widespread also around the world. He explained that in Argentina, it is more suitable to talk about brown people or brown identity instead of black people, which are the characteristics that belong to a brown identity. The most common racialization found here, according to Alejandro: brown skin, indigenous facial features, indigenous eyes, pronounced cheekbones are usually taken as Latin America immigrant characteristics. He remarks that when thinking of Argentinian use of the word black, the usual representation would be someone with brown characteristics. So they see black people and brown people as the same thing. They just see them as just, brown niggers pretty much. They don't see them that much as any different. They're all the same to them, right? That common representation also includes that the brown person will likely live in a villa. Not only racism, but aporophobia, and that's the fear of poor people is incorporated in the Argentinian idea of brown people. Yeah, they hate poor people there. They hate them. Just a wicked place, man. And these are the villas. They live in shacks. And you want to tell me they're not the children of Israel? Although it is impossible to resume all our history as an independent country, I think we could note two elements to help us understand our problem. Okay, that's enough. I don't feel like reading the rest of this. Let's move on. So, this person is going to explain why Buenos Aires is one of the worst cities he's been to. From all the destinations I was going to on my recent trip, Rio, Salvador, and other places, I was looking forward to going to Buenos Aires the most. I had no reservations or concerns about this leg of my trip, but wow, what a complete disappointment in every way. There's nothing really to see in Buenos Aires. The fact that a cemetery is the highlight of a city should have been my first clue. This person's a sarcastic fool. People who say you need at least a week to see Buenos Aires haven't traveled very much. I would have spent more than 3 days there. In my opinion, the city lacks culture or character. Why? Because it's a bunch of white people. It's Edom. The fact that white Argentinians keep trying to prove that they're European and deny their South American culture is very evident. Why would they do that, though? They have all this maternal, indigenous, and black lineage. Why do they still cling to whiteness? Because it's all about your father's seed line. The city is full of obnoxious, arrogant, and pretentious people who have a superiority complex. Bro, that sounds like Manhattan. Not really, because they're more liberal, but they still have they're still all these things. They're just not outwardly racist. They're just liberal racists. Like if you see if a white person would see like a cutting ass session, quote unquote, or like when we just like make jokes on each other, we crack on each other, and they were to see like maybe white people and black people doing it to each other, the white people will get up and say, "Oh my goodness, how could you say that? He's black. He can't take what you're saying to him." That's how they are. Oh man. Or they're a bunch of purse clutchers. I be going around the houses. They be thinking I'm scouting houses and stuff. Thinking what heist I'm gonna pull off. Thinking they are better than others, particularly darker skinned people. They listen to Western music, wear Western clothes, fashion. The food mostly consists of pasta, pizza, and sandwich. Nothing of their own except dolce de leche. Apart from tango, I don't see anything else that is uniquely Argentine. Besides the arrogant factor, there's nothing European about Argentina. Oh man. And I don't feel this way because of the fact that on Christmas Day, I was, for the first time in my life, was physically assaulted by a stranger in Buenos Aires as he called me vile and vulgar names, including racial remarks about my mother. The guy actually punched me in the face because I refused to share my taxi with him where I had to pay for it to God knows where, after he tried to steal my cab twice and lied to me. I had enough of Buenos Aires, so I went to Mendoza, and though things were mildly better, I still got dirty looks. Kind of like how I'm getting now by the guy who works at the at the internet cafe while I type this out. Yo! Can't tell you how many times he has looked over here giving me dirty looks. I don't know how to say these places. I rely heavily on tourism, so I suspect that's why that it hasn't been a problem for me. The only people were friendly and warm were those of indigenous backgrounds. Oh man, only the Israelites are going to be friendly to anyone. And we're too damn overly friendly. Always an issue with us, man. But we shouldn't stop that. We should still continue to be who the Most High made us to be. He said the dude punched him in the face. What the hell? Yo. Oh, man. I never had any problems because of my race, even when I get significantly tanned when I'm out and about. But I have people giving me dirty looks for absolutely no reason. One woman turned her back on me when I sat on the opposite of the beach in a park and kept looking back to see if I was gone. She finally got up and sat on another beach. Bro. Yo. I see other dark-skinned people, but I'm not quite sure why I'm being singled out, and I'm not even that dark. I just don't understand what the problems. I never felt so unwelcomed and out of place. Bro, I'm having too much fun reading this. It's not funny, but it is. Only 7 hours. Bro, he's really typing this while he's going through this. What is he going through, man? Only 7 hours until I'm out of this hole. And by the way, I've talked to several people who feel the same way about Buenos Aires, so I know it's not my imagination. Overall, what an incredible disappointment, especially after coming from Brazil, where I found the people to be the friendliest of anywhere I've been, including Scotland. The people were sincere, genuine, passionate, and full of character and life. Complete opposite of Buenos Aires. I tried to think back why I was so enthusiastic about Buenos Aires, and then it occurred to me that I read posts on internet forums about people bragging about how great the city is, and people who live in Buenos Aires. People who live in Buenos Aires, go figure. Hey, this is the real stuff. This is the real drop. This is not people telling you what it is. This is not fake stuff trying to promote a city. No, this is real deal, bro. People are gonna tell you how it is. Let me see if I could get anything out of this to share. I'm having fun with this, man. Let me see. Violence and discrimination against women are ongoing problems in Argentina, despite efforts in recent years to reduce these abuses. So this is also what Edom likes to do. They like to abuse women. Look at the Wodiwos of Europe, the rapists. That's who they are. That's how white people are. This is how white people do. They flash their money, and when the woman isn't feeling them, they get mad and they get into rape mode. Like, what do you mean my money isn't good? What do you mean? You belong to me. You're a concubine. You're a whore. That's how they look at our women. Nothing more, nothing less. Indices? What the hell? Indices? I've never seen that word before. Of poverty and unemployment, especially in the context of recent economic crisis, are of significant concern. Underemployment is 23.8% for women, while underemployment for men is 11.3%. Unemployment is 14% for women and 11% for men. That's not that big of a difference. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of a reach. Indigenous women and women belonging to other minority ethnic groups continue to suffer, in particular, from discrimination in employment. International trafficking in women involves luring immigrant women with lucrative and deceptive job offers and forcing them into the Argentine sex trade. So that's how you treat our women. This place is going to pay for what they're doing, man. Now, I came across this, and this was crazy, man. This was crazy. Well, first we're going to play this video. Maybe one of the Spanish-speaking brothers can help me out and what this dude said. I heard some of what he said, but like tell me what really is going on with this conversation, because I don't know why the hell he did what he did. I don't know what led him to do it. I just know he did it, and there was just no reason or excuse to have done it.
Sí. Ahora. Me vale madre. Stay the fuck away. Me vale madre. De aquí no me voy a quitar. No
Bro,
me voy a quitar.
What a piece of shit. And both of them, look at these two satyrs. These two cave beasts. What could have possibly happened that you felt the need to flip this man's stuff? I feel like wringing this guy's neck. But I will. Don't worry. But I'll do it on the Most High's time. Don't worry. Oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy. And look at, I can't believe this. You saw this person do this to this man, and you felt no remorse, no compassion in your heart to say, why would you do that? That is such a messed up thing to do, bro. You know how hard this dude works? And you really did something like that? You know how the long hours he has to work? Oh man.
Aquí les grabo este video. Este puto racista me vino a tirar esto. Aquí me vino a tirar esto. Pendejo. ¿Lo vino a tirar? estúpidos, retrasados mentales.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Disgusting behavior. And, that sort of behavior can only come from one group of people. And everyone knows, man, I'm not Argentine, I'm not racist, I'm Argentine. And he says, hell, that's impossible. No soy racista, soy argentino. Okay. Bro, this is just, these guys, these people gotta go, man. And look, is this a story of colorism? Latinos confronting other Latino? Why? This is that racial identity garbage that they have. What does it mean to be a Latino? A Spanish speaker? Okay. What does that mean? Just because you speak Spanish, that doesn't mean that you're of that sort of nation. Look at this dude, man. This is an indigenous brother. That's not the same thing as that piece of shit. Look at this dude. I'm not even apologizing for cursing, man. That's just what he is. How could you do something like this? How could you do something like that? That's crazy. It's unbelievable. Like, you don't do that to anyone, but especially to one of the children of Israel, potentially. Are you crazy? Wow, man. Crazy. I don't particularly read this story as Latino against Latino. I read this through a white lens. That comes out of colonization. Europeans believed the indigenous were inferior. They could conquer the Western Hemisphere as they did under the presumption that the white was better. That trickles down in Latin America just like it did in the United States, but it has different manifestations. We know that people from Argentina, not all, but generally speaking, are very proud of their European ancestry, specifically Italian, Romans, to mark themselves as white, not to be confused with those who were contaminated with indigenous and Afro-descended blood. So they look at us as a contamination, and that's good. Don't touch us, man. And brothers, stop touching these people, man. I'm telling you. And you're going to do what you want, but, oh, man, I can't believe that you would really do that, man. And if you don't agree, I don't care. You don't read enough scriptures. And it is what it is. You're going to die because of your lack of knowledge. And then someone asked, why is Argentina so racist? And, you know, a lot of these people, when they get asked questions, they make excuses. And that's the spirit of Edom. The spirit of, well, you know, they didn't really do anything wrong. The spirit of Edom is to make an excuse as to how that person who got his stuff flipped over did something wrong. That's the spirit of Edom. That's just how they act. That's how they are. Now they said, I think there's a misconception here born from various factors, going from stereotypes to internet BS and not being familiar with the language. The people who go there say it. But the people who live in Buenos Aires think it's so great. Now, it says, the kind of discrimination as a country, yes, but it concerns mainly two things. Excuse me. Where are you from? I.e., are you one of the neighboring countries, and are you poor? Are all the Israelites going to be poor? Damn near. We don't have anything in this society. So, you just proved a point. They hate us. We're not going to be rich. And if we're not going to be poor, we're not going to be rich. Because if we're rich, we're usually another nation, or we're a sellout. It's one of the two. Basically here, no one give an F if you black as coal or look like a Viking. It doesn't affect how they treat you, but they're going to consider the Viking person prettier, as long as you are middle class or above. You see what I mean? And they even call someone, they refer to you as Negro, but they're not doing it in a racial way. They're just saying it just because they just like to say it. They like to point people out based on their looks. They're a very carnal and wicked place. That's just how they are. A lot of places in Latin America are, but that comes from, you know, the invader and his mindset and the racism that he has bestowed upon people. You know, so he has everyone acting in a certain way, and people, they just act in insecurity, and because they've been bullied, now they bully other people. Just a toxic place, man. It's Latin America. Oh my goodness. Now this person asks, what is the most racist country in Latin America? This person just straight up says it. He lives in Buenos Aires. He says Argentina. I'm going to apologize before I answer any Argentinians, but this is no secret to most Latin Americans. Argentinians are predominantly white, clear-eyed, and have an accent similar to the Italian. To explain Argentina's heritage, we have to explain that unlike other Latin American countries, Argentina does not have a great population of black and indigenous peoples. Why, you may ask? Well, during the bloody Argentinian independence revolution during the 1800s, black and indigenous people were sent to fight before criollos, I don't know. The result, most of their populations were wiped out. Still, there are black and indigenous people in Argentina, contrary to the popular belief. Argentina is a predominantly white country. During the Italian immigration to Latin America during the 1800s and the 1900s, millions, or at least more than 500,000 Italians settled in Argentina. Today, you can still see Italian influences in almost every Argentinian. The problem didn't start with Italians, as other Latin American nations also received a huge amount of Italian immigrants, but it contributed to the image of a white European Argentina. And then goes into the Nazis, and then he just says, Argentina is racist, not because of its European heritage. Countries like Venezuela, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia have colonies of German people, Italian people, Jews, Americans, and other European countries. It's the idea Argentinians have that they are a pure nation among a third world hellhole. So they are the white and the great people among the other dark nations of people, or the dark peoples of that continent. They don't like to be called Latinos. They like to be called ex-Europeans. They stare at black and indigenous people. This happened to some of my friends in Buenos Aires. They despise and marginalize the indigenous peoples, often denying their existence. They can't see beauty outside a blue-eyed blonde person. They are proud of being white and ex-European. Listen, man, one of my friends who was Argentinian, she was a good friend of mine, but she was racist as hell, and she never even really understood it. She loved white people, and she probably was paternally. But the point is that they just have that sort of culture. It's a very disgusting culture. It's a very toxic culture. Once, a former Argentinian president, Carlos Menem, said in front of the media, "There are not black people in Argentina. Brazil has got that problem." Oh my goodness, that's funny as hell. Black politicians, football players, and celebrities have experienced horrible discrimination in Argentina, often being called monkeys. Ooh, 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 ooh. Argentinians also consider other Latin American countries, especially specifically Peru, Bolivia, and Paraguay, and Chile, inferior nations, often using their race to explain their superiority. There is a whole article on Wikipedia which explains Argentina racism, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and racial negation. This person says Chile is the most racist one, right? They're saying, and this person makes the claim that, they treat the indigenous peoples like garbage. So you guys think that you have it so hard. You guys don't come out of your hole, your shell, your box. You don't research. You don't do anything. And this person claims that so many people have indigenous or black blood based on this research, And it says that like over 60% of them have maternal DNA that goes to Native and Black women. But, you know, I have a background in psychology and research and things of that sort. This is how many people they collected. 11 people from this area, 11 people from this area, 28 people from this area, 21 people from this area, 61 people from this area, 3 people from this area, 150 people from this area, 153 people from this area, 31 from this area, 1 person from this area, 32 people from this area. This is a joke. Do you know how much people are here? You know how many people are here? Excuse me. Do you know how many people are here? Come on now. Really? So this amount of people is supposed to speak for the whole population, right? And where did you take it out of? Because you took it in this area, but you could have taken it in a neighborhood. You could have taken it in a region. Did you take it from different regions of that region? I don't trust any of this research because they're very, very skewed and it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. So it's going to make sense because you're using this research to say, well, you know, they're racist to themselves. No, and even if they were, you know, these races at such a high level, that's maternal, and that's kind of proving the point that they have the mothers of Blacks and Natives, yet they hate them so much. That's just proving who they are further. Black travelers often bring home an unwanted souvenir. You know, this happens all over the world. Yeah, and the CIA, wait, what? That says the CIA World Factbook currently notes that Argentina is a 97% white population. And they just kill all the indigenous peoples, you know, slowly. So I hope you guys learned something from this. This is the reason why Bozrah has to go. It's the reason why. Don't feel bad for these people. Shalom, Selah Kala.